I'm going to explain the complete trading strategy one used to turn $160 into $9,500 in just one day of trading. Be careful, this strategy is very aggressive and is intended for traders who already have some experience in the financial markets. As you can tell, in this video I'm sharing the full strategy with you. I'm going to show you how I use different time frames. I'll tell you whether I prefer to trade trend following, trend reversals, or ranges. I'll share my secret information with you. I'll show you exactly what I look at on the charts to make my decisions, whether it's to buy or to sell. I'll also reveal the signals I used for this strategy. Why are price zones such a crucial element in my trading plan? To put it simply, you will come out of this video with a complete strategy ready to use on your trading charts. So here we are on the Bitcoin chart at the end of 2024 in November. And first of all, what's interesting to notice is that there isn't a single technical indicator on my chart. As you can see, I only use candlesticks, also known as price action. Basically, I focus solely on the candlesticks. What patterns are they going to form? What will their size be? What will their opening price be? Their closing price? Are there wicks on the candlestick? Is it volatile? Ultimately, candlesticks reflect exactly the psychology of traders in real time, and that's really the key information to use in your trading scenario. So, no technical indicators. Coming up on the channel, I will still share with you some very effective strategies, for example using the RSI, Fibonacci retracements. But all of that will only be complementary tools to my technical analysis, which is solely based on price action. Also, what's important is the second point in my strategy, the one that allowed me to turn $160 into $9,500, is that I use multiple time frames. As you can see here, we're on a daily chart. If I switch here, we're on a 4-hour chart. Here, we're on the 1-hour chart as you can see at the top, and on the last chart, we're on 30 minutes. Why do I do this? Well, quite simply because I use a trend following strategy, so I follow the strong dominant trend, which is, for example, on higher time frames like daily, weekly, or monthly. I'll spare you the weekly and monthly charts for today, but you get the logic, the reasoning. Why do I look at this? So as not to go against the trend. If my higher time frame charts, monthly, weekly, daily, are bullish, I'm not going to try to sell on a 4-hour or a 1-hour chart. Instead, I'll favor small pullbacks and then get back into the main trend by buying, so I can follow the original trend. That's very important. It helps you avoid getting caught in volatile days, big drops, or big spikes, and being on the wrong side of the market. As you can see, this is a trend following strategy, and what's interesting is that it's a very simple, very effective trading plan. We're not overwhelmed by information, the chart is clear, the chart is easy to read, and we just focus on the candlestick. Let's dive deeper into the details of the strategy. On the daily chart here, you can see that there was a huge resistance zone, and things started to get interesting when that resistance zone was broken, obviously, because that provides powerful information and technical analysis. It gives signals afterward, by signals, and if we play it right, we make money. You can see that this is a strong zone, and I placed it here simply because, on the daily chart, the market pushed the price back several times. As you can see, sellers were shorting the zone heavily every time the market hit the resistance, it kept getting rejected. When you notice that, you just need to be patient. Throughout this whole area, you shouldn't do anything if you're following a trend strategy. Of course, there are always ways to buy at the bottom of the range, but it's still a range, so what's more interesting is to wait for the breakout, for real confirmation that we're moving to a higher level, breaking through this whole area of indecision and getting back to following the trend. So, as you can see, once we started to test the resistance, to break it, to push through it little by little, it became really interesting, especially since we also got a pullback on the resistance area, which now turns into a support zone. We can use this new information to start considering buying opportunities. We're looking at the 4-hour chart, and you can also see another very important piece of information, the downward trend line, which for a while kept pushing the price down. You can see it happening several times, right? So what's interesting here, and why I started buying from the 6th, is that we already had several key pieces of information, a very strong underlying uptrend. So, we were looking for buying opportunities. Then, we had the breakout of this resistance, an enormous resistance that held Bitcoin's price down for weeks. And now we add the downward trend line, which, once established, again, we wait for the breakout before taking action. So, right here. That already makes 3 key pieces of information, 3 things to include in your trading plan. These 3 pieces of information were part of my psychological reasoning, and I started seriously looking for buying opportunities. To do this, we moved down to a lower time frame. This time, we're on the 1-hour chart, and you can see that we have more and more information. We can focus on the breakout of the trend line, which is a bullish signal, and you can see the impulsiveness at the breakout, a big, large, volatile, powerful candle. You can see the pullback right here. It's very precise. It almost comes back to the trend line, and then, quite simply, the price makes the expected move, the move that was predictable with all these chart patterns. So, once the trend line is broken, once the pullback happens, though it's worth noting that the pullback isn't mandatory, sometimes the market just takes off straight away. Here, we have a textbook case, something very clear, very precise, and we're lucky to have this pullback on the trend line. And it's from this point on that we're really going to start looking for buying opportunities, quite simply. Personally, my final buy signal in my trading plan was at the break of this small resistance that I'm marking here in yellow. As you can see, on the 30-minute chart, there was a little stall just below this resistance. We get the pullback, there's a bit of hesitation, then one impulsive move, a second impulsive move, and here we break the previous high. It's at the close of this candle here that we have our entry price. Once we enter here at 71,000, what can we do? Ideally, you want to set the stop loss below the last low. So, we'd have a stop loss here at around 69,000. That makes for a pretty wide stop loss, 200 pips. So if we have a stop loss of 200 pips, to get a good risk-reward ratio, we need to aim for at least 200 pips. The entry price here is at 71,000, to round it off. Well, for the first take profit, we're aiming for 73,000. Target, profit. What's also interesting to do, let me zoom out a bit to show you, to find and set these take profit targets, is simply to look for the previous high point. You can see it, the first take profit here at 200 points matches perfectly with the previous high. We draw a line like this. Why? Because with this trend line pattern, once we get the signal, once it breaks cleanly and the trend resumes, at the very least we're going to target these wicks here, the previous highs, to grab the seller's liquidity and gain momentum to continue the trend. Okay, so that's also a way to set these targets. And in any case, what's super important is to stick to your risk-reward ratio. Once your target is hit, you can take out 70% of your profits and let a small part of your position run, hoping to catch more. Here, as you can see, at the top, we have a retracement, and here, we have another entry point. Why is this an entry point? Because we have this candle with a long lower wick that forms a kind of hammer. And here, actually, we're stuck at the same price zone at the lows here, and basically, we get a hammer in the form of an engulfing pattern. That means the bullish candle completely engulfs the previous bearish candle, and often, that's a sign of a trend reversal. When you have a strong trend like this taking shape, it's normal to see a bit of a bearish correction like this. Even if it drops 300 points, that's normal because we've already gained 600 or 700 points on the way up. I've also noticed over the years that after a strong impulse, there's always a correction, but it's very, very rare for the market to drop all the way back down. In other words, for it to be a fake out or a bluff by the market. Usually, we'll see a small correction and then at least head back toward the highs we just set previously. Here, as you can see, it was a very strong trend, so it's going to continue afterwards. Same thing as always, you can ride the trend and increase your profits. In this specific case, you're always trying to buy the lows. So, there's one here and another one here. The next one is in this area here. So, all of this is about looking for buying opportunities. Once we have this candle here that breaks through the resistance, well, we can enter a buy position and aim for this target here. Why? Because that's the target from the previous highs here. And as you can see, you can have fun riding the trend like this. Here, we have a bit of a flat range zone, but you see, when we break through this resistance here, well, that's simply our signal. You can set an entry price on the breakout of the range resistance. And as you can see, after that, it takes off and keeps taking off. This was visually unique because it was a real bull run, a massive surge. There's not always this much volatility, but you get the reasoning, you understand the idea behind the strategy. In terms of signals, as you can see, I wait for strong candles, candles that confirm my trading scenario. These can be engulfing candles. It's all about price action, the patterns that allow me to build a trading scenario, a multitude of signals that will lead to a buy or sell decision. I'll let you practice this strategy on your own charts. Thank you for your attention. See you very, very soon on the YouTube channel.